how to thrive during the big shift. First of all, you have to decide that you want to. And when I'm talking about the big shift, I'm talking about what's happening in our world. And we've all seen it over the last several years. Things have been very different. Or we've heard the word unprecedented, or this has never happened before. Well, it has happened before, but not quite like this. And something like this has never occurred in our lifetimes, that's for sure. But it has happened in history. But it's so funny. I think about my mentor who years and years ago, I've had many of them. I've had so many coaches and mentors, and I didn't listen to many of them, just like my parents. You know how you're growing up, he's like, what do they know? It doesn't make any sense. So I didn't listen to a lot of them. But he said to me, that when the world goes through changes, because he says this always happens, you just got to study history, you see that things change over time. And when things go a little chaotic, we can think of big events that have occurred in our world, like wars and things like that. But he said, the best thing to do is then to work on you, is to work on your business. And he said, if you look around, if you study a little bit, you will see that the billionaires and millionaires were all made or came up with something during times of great stress in the world, because they had this awareness that it was going to change. Eventually, it was going to move into something else. But this was the opportunity for them to do something that was going to allow them to become wealthy, to really influence so many others and kind of rule the world. That's what happened. But this time it's a little different. Now, a lot of people use the word the big shift. I've called it a restructuring because that's the information I received. We come into the world and we all evolve exactly the same way. It's in our consciousness. But we have different life paths we're supposed to follow or meant to follow that would give us the lives that we want to have. And I believe fully that it's in each person, and it's what I call your authentic self. But we don't always get there right away. I didn't, because I argued about everything. I said, no, this doesn't even make sense. Even things that I could see in front of me, I couldn't believe it. I took my first personal development workshop. I don't even know how I got there, but it was 1972. That's what I did. And I'm thinking, what? I don't even know, how did this happen? But then I was watching something. I was watching the guy who was the leader, the facilitator of this workshop. And this was different for me. And I could see him do things like he was curing headaches in people that were in the group that were having some trouble. I go, how is he doing that? It took me years to figure out it was energy. He had a handle on energy and he knew how to move it around. We're all energy. The world is energy. The planet is energy, everything. And so we create our lives energetically. But we also have programming that tells us we can't do it. Programming that tells us we shouldn't be feeling what we're feeling. And I went through that my entire life. And I kept everything I had hidden because I didn't want anybody to see me. I didn't want anybody to understand who I was and what was going on. Why would I do that? A lot of us do that because we come into the world, these unique beings, and we're supposed to be that, but we keep looking around to try to fit into something that is exactly like us. That's never what we're supposed to do. We're meant to build something new. That's what happens over evolution. People come into the world, they have lives, they have experiences, they develop something, and then they give it back to others. That's how the world evolves. But we don't always take that path. And not everyone will do it. And that's the problem that we're going to experience over the next several months, more than a year, of this particular big shift that is occurring. And so you can actually look this up and see the energetic changes that are happening in the galaxies and all of that. We are all energy and we're affected by that. So this is going to go on for a little bit. But that means, again, it's the best time for you to become really successful, happy, abundant, all of those things, because the energies are giving you permission now to do that. But it takes time. It took me time, and I keep telling everyone what is possible, because you can only give people something that you have experienced and that you know and that you can do. And I've done everything. And I keep telling everybody, I'm going to be 73 in November. People go, why do you keep saying that? Because I want people to know what is possible. I've never been more vital and alive in my entire life. And I had a horrible, difficult, challenging life. moving through every kind of difficulty, which means that I'm meant to give that back to others to help this big shift become better. And everyone has that. That's what I wanted to tell you, because see, you're going to maybe, a lot of people are a little afraid now because they're seeing what's happening in the world. We've having all these weather conditions. We've had a war. We have things that shouldn't be occurring, but they're occurring for us. That doesn't even make sense, but it will. Because we are the only ones who can create our lives. We are the only ones who can create the world. And it is something that is within each individual, and what I feel is connected to source, or all that is. I think that we all have that, but we also have that old programming. And that's what we don't want to let go of, because it's too uncomfortable to go into that unknown. What's going to happen? And I can talk about this because I didn't want to do that for a really long time. I finally broke through, though, because I knew I had everything that I could give to people, because I had moved through so much of it. I'd moved through all the fear. Fear is the thing that always holds us back. It's always that fear, and I had tons of it for my entire life. So in 2019, I released a book called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom, because I knew then I wanted to start giving something to others to help them understand what happens, because we live in our consciousness. And so, but if we've been forming these beliefs about staying safe and not wanting to be seen, then it becomes challenging to own who we are, that authenticity. But the empowerment that you feel when you make that step is just, it's unbelievable. It's indescribable, basically. That's what happens. But I'm going to keep giving others more information, because that's what I'm supposed to do, to move through this big shift, to help others do the same thing. And throughout the, in September, I'm going to do some interactive workshops that will be really fun, because I want to explain to everyone the process, how I move through it, what happens, because you can do this. You can access higher states of consciousness, yourself, your soul, all of that. You can do this. And it was a process, and it was one that took me 40 years to develop. But because of that, I came up with a philosophy that anyone would use. But during the workshops, I'm going to, you'll see plenty of information about it when we start planning them, because I really want everyone to have this. But just know that the next little bit of time in our world might look a little chaotic. But that's, again, the time for you to go inside and work on who you are. And it's always work, because we are never done. I'm, people say, why aren't you retired yet? Because this is too much fun. I went through all the misery. I went through all the struggle in my early life. I did all of that. That was the only way that I could develop something that I could give to others. But see, you have the same thing. Every single person has that ability. And the more people who own that and become really happy, become prosperous, successful in their businesses, in their careers, whatever they're doing, it's a different energy that comes into the world. And this particular shift is going to be their blessing instead of all the other things that we might think are going on. But I know for sure, because I've lived it. And I can't tell you how joyous it is to get to that place where you can finally embody who you are and make a difference and make a contribution. Every single person born can make a contribution to the world when they own and can access their authentic self. Every single person there. And we can go through, and I'm going to present a lot of this, because I know people think, no, that's not me. I couldn't possibly do that. And you haven't looked at all the people who had so much less than you and are so prosperous and successful because they decided to own their authentic self. And you can do the same thing. But just be aware of what's occurring in the world, and just know that you exist now to bring something out that's within you, and it's going to make a huge difference in your life and in our world.
I haven't done anything like this.
It's increased the confidence that I had in myself.
Everything is better. I mean, every single aspect of my life. My income, the progress is just amazing. Like, you can see changes from week to week.
Introducing your last development program, Life Transformation for Success, the newest part of Roger Burnley's coaching series. In this 3-month online program, you will learn the mindset tools you need to dissolve the shame of your past, discover the gifts within you that make you important to the world, and get the confidence to rise above anything that stands between you and the life that you want.
Everything changed in my life. Everything. Every single thing.
It's time for you to reprogram your mind for success and become self-actualized. If you're ready to transform your life too, learn more at yourlastdevelopmentprogram.com today.